July 1889. The Mojave Desert didn't forgive, and it didn't forget. It just waited for men to make mistakes, waited for water to run dry, waited for the weak to fall. Colt Brennan knew this. He'd lived it for 8 years. The sun hung low that evening, painting the sand the color of old blood. Colt walked slow through the scrub brush, rifle loose in his right hand, eyes scanning for rabbit tracks. He was 34 years old and looked 50. The desert did that. Took your youth and gave you nothing back but survival. His cabin sat 3 miles north, a lean structure of weathered wood that creaked when the wind picked up. He'd built it himself 6 months ago when he took work at the Flying W Ranch. Cattle driving, hard work, honest work, the kind that kept a man's hands busy and his mind quiet, or tried to. Colt stopped, listened. The desert had a way of talking, if you knew how to hear it. Whined through the Joshua trees, coyotes in the distance, the slow tick of cooling rocks as the sun dropped, and something else, a sound that didn't belong. He turned his head, tracking it. There, east, maybe 50 yards. It came again, faint, almost swallowed by the wind. But there, a voice. Colt's grip tightened on the rifle. Out here, voices meant one of two things: someone lost, or someone hunting. He moved toward it, slow, careful. The sound grew clearer as he walked. Not words, just a low, broken sound, like an animal caught in wire. The old well appeared over a rise, stone walls crumbling, wooden cover half-rotted. Nobody had used it in 20 years. The ranchers said the water went bad in '73, said it tasted like copper and made cattle sick. Colt approached the edge. The sound came from below, inside. He looked down into darkness. Hello? Silence, then movement. A shifting in the shadows 30 feet down. Can you hear me? His voice echoed off stone. A whisper drifted up, barely human. Water. Colt's stomach tightened. He dropped to his knees, leaning over the edge. His eyes adjusted to the dark. There, at the bottom. Something pale, moving. A burlap sack, but it was breathing. Christ! The word came out flat. Empty. Colt ran back to his horse, grabbed his rope, tied one end to the saddle horn. He tested the knot twice. Then he lowered himself into the well, boots scraping stone, rope burning his palms even through the leather gloves. The air grew colder as he descended, damp, thick with the smell of rot and stagnant water. His boots hit mud. The water came up to his ankles, cold enough to make his teeth ache. The sack lay half submerged against the far wall. Colt waded toward it. His hands found rope, thick rope, tied tight around what felt like a person's neck and chest. He pulled his knife, cut careful. The rope fell away. The sack moved, shifted. A muffled sound came from inside. Colt grabbed the top, pulled it up and over. A girl's face emerged, pale, streaked with mud, lips cracked and bleeding, eyes wide but unfocused. 19, maybe 20, hard to tell under the filth. She stared at him. Not scared, not relieved, just blank. Like she'd used up all her reactions and had nothing left. I've got you. Colt's voice came out rougher than he meant. Can you stand? She nodded, tried. Her legs buckled. He caught her. She weighed nothing, just bones and wet cloth. Colt pulled his canteen, held it to her lips. Slow, don't drink fast. She ignored him, gulped, choked. Water spilled down her chin. She kept drinking until he pulled it away. That's enough. You'll be sick. She leaned against the stone wall, shaking. Her dress hung in tatters. Her feet were bare, cut, infected. But it was her left shoulder that made Colt stop breathing. The fabric had torn away. And there, burned into her skin, was a brand, fresh, maybe 2 weeks old, the edges still raw and weeping. A letter, V. Colt's vision blurred. His hands started shaking. He turned away, forced air into his lungs, counted to 10. Not now, not here. Push it down. Lock it away. He turned back. Can you climb? I think so. Her voice surprised him. Steady, calm, like she was answering a question about the weather. I'll go first. You hold on to me. The climb took forever. Colt's shoulders screamed. The girl's weight pressed against his back. Her arms wrapped around his neck. Her breath came in short gasps against his ear. Halfway up, she whispered, "If I fall, don't come back down." "You're not falling. Promise me." "I promise I'm not letting go. Now stop talking and climb." They broke the surface as the sun touched the horizon. Colt pulled her over the edge, both of them collapsing on the sand. The girl rolled onto her back, staring at the sky. Her chest rose and fell, fast, too fast. Colt sat up, checked her over. The brand, the cuts, the bruises around her wrists and ankles. Someone had tied her. Tight. For a long time. "What's your name?" She didn't answer right away, just kept staring at the sky like she was memorizing it. "They call me 17. Colt waited. When she didn't continue, he asked, "That your real name?" "I don't remember my real name." She said it flat, no emotion. "I was the 17th girl my father sold to pay his gambling debts." The words hit like fists. Colt opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Who did this to you?" "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it matters." She turned her head, looked at him for the first time. Really looked. Her eyes were gray, empty, like windows into an abandoned house. "A man named Otto Venska. He owns me, legally. My father signed papers. 10 years of labor to clear $3,000 in debt." She touched the brand on her shoulder without flinching. "This is what he does to his property. So everyone knows." Colt's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. "You're not property." "The law says different." "The law's wrong." 17 almost smiled. Almost. "The law doesn't care if it's wrong. It just cares if you can pay for it to be right." She sat up slow, wincing. "I ran. This is the 4th time. He always finds me. But this time he decided it was easier to let me die. So they tied me up, threw me in that well, and left." "Who's they?" "Bounty hunters. Men who work for Venska. They get $200 for every girl they bring back. Dead girls don't run again. It's better business." Colt stood, offered his hand. She took it. Her grip was weak, but she didn't let go until she found her balance. "I've got a cabin 3 miles north. Food, water, a bed. You can clean up, rest." "And then what?" "I don't know yet." 17 looked at him, studied his face like she was reading a book. "Why are you helping me?" The question sat between them. Heavy. Colt looked away. "Because someone should have helped my sister." And no one did. He walked to his horse, climbed up, reached down. 17 stood there a moment. Then she took his hand and he pulled her up behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist. Light, careful, like she was afraid of taking up too much space. They rode north as the stars came out. The cabin appeared as a dark shape against darker sky. Colt helped 17 down, tied his horse, lit the lantern inside. The light pushed back shadows, revealed a single room, a bed in the corner, a table, 2 chairs, a stove, shelves with canned goods and coffee, nothing extra, nothing wasted. "There's a pump out back," Colt said. "Water's clean? I've got soap, towels." He pulled a shirt from a trunk. "This'll be big on you, but it's clean." 17 took it, held it against her chest. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." She went outside. Colt heard the pump handle squeak, water hitting wood. He built up the fire in the stove, put coffee on, opened a can of beans, cut bread. When she came back, she'd washed the mud off. Her hair hung wet and dark around her face, not red like he'd thought. Auburn. The shirt swallowed her. The sleeves hung past her hands. She looked younger clean, 16 maybe, 17 at most. Too young for what she'd been through. They ate in silence. Colt watched her from the corner of his eye. She ate slow, methodical. Like she was rationing food she wasn't sure she'd get again. When she finished, she set down the spoon. "You have a picture on your shelf. A girl, maybe 12 years old, dark hair. Is that your sister?" Colt's hand froze halfway to his coffee. He set the cup down. Didn't look at the shelf, didn't need to. He knew which picture she meant. Yeah, her name was Della. Was? She died 8 years ago. 17 nodded slow, picked up her coffee, drank, set it down. I know her. The room tilted. Colt gripped the edge of the table. What? Not knew. No, past tense is wrong. I knew her. 17's voice stayed flat, empty, but her hands shook. We were in the same cage. In El Paso, winter of 1881. She was 12, I was 11. We were there for 3 weeks before they separated us. Colt couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The walls pressed in. You're lying. I'm not. 17 met his eyes. She had a scar on her left knee, shaped like a crescent moon. She said she got it falling off a horse when she was 7. She talked about her brother all the time. Said his name was Colt. Said he was the best rider in California. Said he'd come find her. The coffee cup shattered in Colt's hand. He didn't feel it, didn't feel the hot liquid or the ceramic cutting his palm. He just stared. How did she die? 17's face didn't change. They told us if we tried to run, they'd make an example. Della didn't believe them. She said her brother taught her to never give up. So one night she picked the lock, got out, made it almost 2 miles before they caught her. And they brought her back, tied her to a post in the center of the camp, made all of us watch. Then Otto Vensky himself put a bullet in her head. He said, "This is what happens to girls who forget their place." 17's voice never wavered, never cracked. She just delivered the words like she was reading a list. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help, but I'm sorry. Colt stood, walked to the door, opened it, stood in the threshold, staring at nothing. Behind him, 17's voice came quiet. If you want me to leave, I understand. No. The word came out choked. No, you stay. You rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do. There's nothing to figure out. They'll come for me. They always do. Then let them come. Colt walked outside, closed the door behind him, sat on the porch step, stared at the desert, at the stars, at the vast emptiness that matched what he felt inside. Della. He'd spent 8 years not knowing, 8 years wondering, 8 years carrying hope that maybe she'd escaped. Maybe she'd started over somewhere. Maybe she was alive. Now he knew, and knowing was worse. Inside through the thin walls, he heard 17 moving, the creak of the bed, the rustle of blankets, then silence. Colt sat there until the stars wheeled overhead, until the cold soaked through his shirt, until his hands stopped shaking. Finally he stood, went inside. 17 lay curled on the bed facing the wall. Her breathing was steady, but he could tell she wasn't asleep. Della talked about you too, Colt said to the dark. Every day, right up until they took her. 17 didn't move, didn't respond. Colt lay down on the floor using his saddle as a pillow. Sleep didn't come, but he closed his eyes and waited for morning. Morning came gray and cold. Colt woke to the sound of movement. He sat up. 17 stood at the stove pouring coffee. She'd found his extra pair of boots. They were too big, but she'd stuffed the toes with cloth. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. She handed him a cup. I'm not good at sitting still. They drank in silence. Outside, the desert woke up. Birds called. Wind picked up. The sun climbed. Tell me about Venska, Colt said. 17 sat at the table, wrapped her hands around her cup, stared into it like she could read the future in the steam. He's German. Came to America in 1850. He was 17, poor, desperate. Someone promised him work in the California gold fields, good money, a fresh start. She paused, drank, continued. It was a lie. He got off the boat and they sold him. Actual slavery. He worked in a mine for 15 years. No pay, barely any food. They beat him, worked him until his hands bled, until his back broke, until he forgot what freedom felt like. How'd he get out? The mine collapsed in 65. Killed 40 men. Vensky survived. Crawled out through a crack in the rock. Walked 3 days to Sacramento. No one came after him. No one cared. One slave more or less didn't matter. 17's voice stayed flat, detached, like she was reciting someone else's story. He could have started over, could have been different, but he wasn't. He said, "I will never be a slave again. I will be the one holding the chains." So he became what he hated. Worse, because he knows exactly how it feels, and he does it anyway. Colt set down his cup. How does it work, the system? Debt slavery. It's legal if you word it right. Someone owes money, can't pay. Vensky offers a contract, your labor for X years to clear the debt. He makes it sound fair, reasonable. But the contract has clauses, fees, interest. It's designed so you never pay it off. You just work. Forever. Or until you die. Whichever comes first. Whichever comes. And the brand? 17 touched her shoulder without looking at it. Property marking. Every girl gets one. V for Venska. Some of the men who work for him, they get branded too if they try to leave. It's a warning. It says, "This person belongs to me. Touch them, and you answer to me." Where does he keep people? Camps, mines, saloons, brothels, anywhere he can make money off bodies. He's got operations from Texas to Nevada, hundreds of people, maybe thousands. Hard to count when they keep dying and getting replaced. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading. Colt stood, paced. His mind worked through logistics, numbers, possibilities. If he's that big, he's got protection, law, judges, politicians. Judge Cornelius Ashford, federal judge in San Francisco. He's Venska's silent partner, provides 60% of the capital, uses his position to make problems disappear. Girls who run get caught and sent back. People who complain get arrested. Reporters who investigate have accidents. How do you know all this? Because I was there when they made the deal, 1883. I was 13. They used me to serve drinks at the meeting. They talked like I was furniture, like I couldn't hear, couldn't understand, couldn't remember. 17's hands tightened around the cup, the first real emotion Colt had seen from her. I remember everything. A horse whinnied outside, then another. Colt moved to the window. 2 riders approached, slow, deliberate, both armed. "Stay inside," he said. "They're here for me." I said, "Stay inside." Colt stepped onto the porch, hand resting on his belt, near his pistol. He didn't draw, not yet. But the message was clear. The riders stopped 20 feet out. The first man was maybe 40, tall, lean, face like weathered leather. He wore a long coat despite the heat. His eyes were the color of winter sky. The second was younger, 25 at most. Eager, the kind of eager that got people killed. The older man tipped his hat. "Morning?" "Morning. Nice day." "It is." "I'm Luther Kane. This is Ben Howell. We're looking for someone." "Lot of desert out here. Easy to get lost." Luther smiled, no warmth in it. "Not lost. Running. Girl, about 19. Red hair. Slim. Probably injured. Haven't seen her. Mind if we check your cabin?" "Yeah, I mind." Ben's hand drifted toward his gun. Luther held up a hand. Stopped him. "Now, friend, we don't want trouble. We're just doing a job. Mr. Vensky sent us. He owns the girl legal and proper. Signed contract. We've got the papers if you want to see them." "Don't care about papers. The law does. The law's not here. I am." Luther's smile faded. His voice dropped. Lost all pretense of friendliness. "We're authorized to retrieve Venska's property. By force, if necessary. We'd prefer not to. Cleaner for everyone. But we will if we have to." "She's not property. She's a person." "Legally, she's both. And legally, she belongs to Mr. Vensky until her contract expires. That's 7 more years, so we're taking her back. You can make this easy or hard. Your choice." Colt's hand moved to his pistol. Didn't draw, just rested there. "Here's my choice. You turn those horses around. You ride out. You tell Venska if he wants her, he can come get her himself. But you two don't come back. Not tomorrow, not next week, not ever. Because if I see you on my land again, we won't be talking." Ben shifted in his saddle. Young, stupid, ready to prove something. Luther saw it too. "Easy, Ben." But Ben was already talking. "You threatening us, old man? I'm stating facts. You think you can take both of us? I think one of you will die before you clear leather. Probably you. Your hand's too eager. Bet you've never actually shot a man. Just cans, bottles. Maybe a rabbit if you got lucky." Ben's face flushed red. "You son of—" "Ben!" Luther's voice cracked like a whip. "Enough." He turned back to Colt. The smile was gone. Just calculation now. Measuring, deciding. "Mr. Vensky offered $500 for the girl's return, dead or alive. We'd prefer alive. Less mess. But we'll take either. You're throwing away your life for someone you just met. Doesn't seem smart." "Probably not, but I stopped doing smart things a long time ago." Luther nodded slow, like he understood something. Respected it even if he didn't agree. "We'll be back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And next time there'll be more of us. You can't fight us all." "Maybe not, but I can make you pay for every inch." Luther touched his hat. "Shame. You seem like a decent man. Hate to kill you. Feelings mutual." The two riders turned, headed south, didn't look back. Colt watched until they disappeared. Then he went inside. 17 stood in the corner, back against the wall. Hands shaking but face calm. "You should have given me to them. Not a chance. They'll kill you. They'll try. Why?" Her voice broke for the first time. "Why are you doing this?" Colt looked at her. Really looked. Saw Della in her eyes. Saw every girl he'd failed to save. Saw 8 years of running and guilt and shame. "Because no one helped Della. Because I've spent 8 years wishing someone had. And because if I let them take you, I might as well have pulled that trigger myself." 17's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, swallowed hard. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got work to do." "What kind of work?" "The kind that keeps you alive." That afternoon, Colt taught 17 to shoot. They started with a pistol. She'd never held one before. Her hands shook. The first shot went wide, hit nothing but sand. "Again!" she fired. Closer. "Again." By the 20th shot, she hit the can. "Good. Now do it faster." They practiced until the sun started dropping, until her hands stopped shaking, until she could draw, aim, and fire in one smooth motion. She'd never be a gunfighter, but she might stay alive long enough to run. That evening, they sat on the porch, eating beans from cans, watching the stars come out. "Can I ask you something?" 17 said. "Go ahead." "Why do you live alone? Why here?" Colt was quiet a long time. When he spoke, his voice came out rough, unused to sharing. "After Della died, I couldn't stay put. Every place reminded me of her, every face, every sound. So I started moving. Never more than 6 months anywhere. Work a job, save money, move on. Figured if I kept moving, the guilt couldn't catch up." "Did it work?" "No. Turns out guilt's a better rider than me." 17 almost smiled. "What made you stop here?" "Didn't plan to. Just ran out of road, ran out of places to run to. Figured the desert was as good a place as any to disappear. And now? Now I'm done disappearing." They fell silent. The night grew cold. The stars wheeled overhead. Inside, 17 lay down on the bed. Colt took the floor again. Just before sleep, she spoke into the dark. "Della talked about you every day. She said you taught her to ride, to shoot, to never give up. She said if she could just hold on long enough, you'd find her." Colt's throat closed. "I'm sorry I didn't." "She wouldn't want you to be sorry. She'd want you to keep going, keep fighting." "How do you know?" "Because that's what she told me, the night before she ran. She said, 'My brother never gives up, so neither will I.'" Tears ran down Colt's face in the dark. He didn't wipe them away, just let them fall. "I won't give up on you," he whispered. No response, just breathing, steady, even, asleep. Colt lay there until dawn. The next morning started normal. Coffee, bread. The slow emergence of sun over sand. Then horses, multiple, coming fast. Colt grabbed his rifle, looked out. Not Luther and Ben, someone else. A woman, maybe 30, riding hard, a child behind her in the saddle. Small, maybe 6 years old. The woman pulled up, nearly fell dismounting, caught herself. The child clung to her back. Up close, Colt saw the woman was starving, ribs showing through her dress, eyes sunken, lips cracked, but her eyes were sharp, determined. "Please," she gasped, "I heard there was a girl here with a V brand. Is it true?" Colt's hand tightened on the rifle. "Who's asking?" "My name is Abigail Farrow. If the girl is who I think she is, then she's my sister." The cabin door opened. 17 stepped out, saw the woman, froze. Abigail turned, saw 17. Her face crumpled. "Evelyn?" Her voice broke. "Oh, God. Evelyn, is it really you?" 17. Evelyn stared, no recognition in her eyes, just confusion. Abigail stepped forward, tears streaming. "It's me. It's Abby. Your sister. Don't you remember?" Evelyn shook her head slow. "I don't have a sister." "Yes, you do. You were 9 when they took you. I was 11. We lived in Brownsville. Our father was Hank Farrow. He played cards, lost money, owed Otto Vensky $3,000. Evelyn's face went pale. "That's my father's name, Hank Farrow. But I don't remember you." "That's because they separated us the first week, sent me north, sent you south. I've been looking for you for 6 years, ever since I escaped." The child on Abigail's back stirred, lifted her head. "Mama?" "It's okay, Iris. We're safe now." Abigail set the child down. Iris clung to her mother's leg, stared at Evelyn with wide brown eyes. Evelyn looked at Colt, lost, scared, seeking permission or guidance or something. Colt stepped forward. "Come inside, all of you. We'll talk." They gathered in the cabin. Abigail told her story. How she'd been sold to a man in Sacramento. How she'd worked in his saloon for 5 years. How she'd gotten pregnant by a customer. How the owner beat her when he found out. How she'd killed him with a kitchen knife and run. How she'd been searching for Evelyn ever since. "I heard rumors," Abigail said, "about a girl with a V brand in Ridgecrest. I've been traveling for 3 weeks, following stories, hoping." She reached into her bag, pulled out a book, old, leather-bound, pages yellowed. "I stole this from Venska's office in 1883, right before I ran." She opened it, showed columns of names, numbers, dates, a ledger. "This is his record book, every person he owns, every debt, every contract, every payment to Judge Ashford." Colt took the book, flipped through pages, saw name after name. Della Brennan, age 12. Evelyn Farrow, age 9. Abigail Farrow, age 11. Hundreds of names, maybe thousands. All debts, all owned, all trapped. "This is evidence," Colt said. "Hard evidence. We could take this to the law, to a real judge, someone not in Venska's pocket." Abigail laughed, bitter, broken. "You think I haven't tried? I've been to 3 different towns, 3 different sheriffs. They all said the same thing. The contracts are legal, the debts are real, and Judge Ashford will make sure anyone who interferes disappears. Then we go higher. Federal marshals, Washington. And how do we get there? We're 300 miles from the nearest federal office. We have no money, no horses except yours, and Venska's men are hunting us." Evelyn spoke for the first time. "How many are hunting you?" "I don't know. Maybe 6, maybe more. They've been 2 days behind me since Nevada." As if summoned, hooves sounded outside. Multiple riders, moving fast. Colt moved to the window, counted. 6 horses, all armed, Luther in front, Ben beside him. 4 others Colt didn't recognize. They stopped 50 yards out, spread in a line. Luther called out, "Colt Brennan, we know the Farrow sisters are in there. We know about the ledger. You've got one chance. Send them out. Keep the ledger. We don't care about paper, just the girls." Colt didn't answer, just checked his rifle, made sure it was loaded. Evelyn picked up the pistol he'd taught her to use. Her hands didn't shake. Abigail pulled a knife from her boot, small, sharp, the one she'd used to kill her owner. Outside, Luther sighed. Hard way then, so be it. The shooting started. To be continued in Part 2. The first bullet punched through the window. Glass exploded inward. Evelyn dropped flat. Abigail threw herself over Iris. Colt pressed against the wall, rifle ready. "Stay down," he barked. "Don't move unless I tell you." Another shot. This one hit the doorframe. Splinters flew. Colt risked a glance through the broken window. The 6 riders had spread out. Luther and Ben held position center. The other 4 moved to flank. 2 going left, 2 right. Smart. Pin them down from the front. Come in from the sides. Colt fired. The shot caught one of the flanking riders in the shoulder. The man spun, fell from his horse, didn't get up. 5 left. Return fire shredded the cabin wall. Holes appeared in the wood. Light streamed through. Dust filled the air. Colt dropped, crawled to the other window, fired again, missed. "We can't stay here," Abigail said. Her voice was steady, too steady, like she'd done this before. "They'll burn us out or wait until we run out of ammunition." "The back," Evelyn said. "There was no window. We could break through the wall." Colt shook his head. "They'll hear. They'll circle. Pick us off one by one." "So what do we do?" Before Colt could answer, the shooting stopped. Silence. Heavy. Oppressive. Luther's voice carried across the distance. "Brennan, you killed one of ours. That changes things. Before, we would have taken the girls and left you breathing. Now you die too. But I'm a reasonable man. I'll give you one more chance. Send out the Pharaoh sisters. You keep your life. We ride away. Everyone walks away from this except you with a new start." Colt stayed quiet, thinking, calculating. Evelyn crawled to his side. "Let me go." "No. I'm the one they want. I'm the one with the brand. If I surrender, maybe they'll leave you and Abby and Iris alone." "They won't. You know they won't." "Then at least you'll have time to run." Colt looked at her, saw determination in her eyes, saw Della, saw every moment he'd failed to act. "I'm not trading your life for mine. Not now. Not ever." Outside, Luther called again. 30 seconds, Brennan. Then we come in." Colt's mind raced. The cabin had 2 doors, front and back. 3 windows, all compromised now. Limited ammunition, 4 people, 1 child, no good options. Then Iris spoke, her voice small, frightened. "Mama, I'm scared." Abigail pulled her daughter close, whispered something, kissed her head, and Colt saw it. The way Abigail held that child, the way she'd thrown herself over Iris without hesitation, the way she'd killed a man to protect her, a mother's love. Della had loved like that too, loved Colt, loved life, loved hope, and they'd killed her for it. "Time's up," Luther shouted. Colt made his decision. He stood, walked to the door, opened it, stepped outside. Hands empty, rifle left inside, the 6 riders stared, surprised, confused. "I'm coming out," Colt said, "unarmed. I want to talk." Luther's eyes narrowed. "Talk about what?" "A trade. We're past trades. Not this one." Colt walked forward, slow, hands visible. "I know you're not doing this because you want to. You're doing it because Venske pays you. So I'll pay more." Ben laughed. "You? A dirt poor cowboy? You don't have money." "No, but I know where it is." That got their attention. Luther leaned forward in his saddle. "Keep talking." 3 miles south, old Prospector's Cave, been abandoned since '72. Inside there's $1,200 in gold. Payment from a cattle drive that went bad. The rancher buried it, planned to come back. Never did. I found it 6 months ago. It was a lie, but a good one, specific enough to be believable. Luther studied him. "Why tell us this?" "Because I want you gone. You take the gold. You leave. You tell Venske the girls died in the shootout. Everyone gets what they want. Except Venske doesn't get his property. Venske gets $1,200. That's more than he'd make off 2 girls in a year, and he doesn't have to feed them, clothe them, guard them. It's better business." Luther glanced at Ben, at the other riders, reading them. Ben shook his head. "It's a trap." "Maybe," Luther said. "Or maybe it's a smart man trying to stay alive." He looked back at Colt. "You'll take us to this cave. If the gold's there, we'll consider your offer. If it's not, we'll kill you slow. Then we'll go back in that cabin and kill everyone else slower. Deal. Colt started walking. South. The riders followed. 2 stayed behind, watching the cabin, making sure no one ran. The walk took 20 minutes, long enough for Colt to regret every choice that led him here, long enough to wonder if this was how he'd die, shot in the back in the middle of nowhere for a lie. But he kept walking. The cave appeared as a dark mouth in a hillside, rocks scattered around the entrance, sagebrush, nothing else. "In there," Colt said. Luther dismounted, drew his pistol. "Ben, you and Davies come with me. The rest of you watch him." 3 men entered the cave. Their footsteps echoed, faded. Colt stood in the sun, surrounded by armed men. Waiting. Minutes passed, stretched, became hours in his mind. Then shouting from inside the cave, Ben emerged first, face red, angry, gun raised. "There's nothing in there, just rocks and bat shit." Luther followed, calmer, but his eyes had gone cold. "You lied to us." "Yeah, I did." "Why?" "To buy time." "For what?" Colt smiled. "For them to run." Luther's face changed, understanding, fury. He spun, shouted, "Back to the cabin, now!" The riders wheeled their horses, charged. Colt ran after them, not fast enough, never fast enough. But when they reached the cabin, it was empty, horses gone, supplies gone, people gone. Luther dismounted, walked inside, looked around, saw the ledger on the table, picked it up, flipped through pages. His face went blank. "What is it?" Ben asked. Luther didn't answer, just kept reading. Page after page, his jaw tightened, his knuckles went white. Finally he spoke. "This ledger. You know what's in it?" "No," Colt said. He stood in the doorway, ready to run if this went bad. "Names, dates, payments." Luther's voice was flat. "Dead. My name's in here. My family's name. Wife, 2 sons. He looked up, met Colt's eyes. "I worked for Judge Ashford during the war, Army contract. He promised to take care of my family if anything happened to me. I got hit, lost my arm, came home to find my wife and boys dead. Starved. Ashford never sent the money." Luther closed the book, set it down, gentle. "I've been working for Venska for 11 years, hunting people, dragging them back, telling myself it was just a job, just money. But this." He tapped the ledger. "This says Ashford knew my family died, knew I was owed, and he kept the money anyway." Ben shifted, uncomfortable. "Luther, we should go, report back to Venska." "Report what? That we let them escape? That we got played by a cowboy and 2 women? We'll track them. They can't have gone far." Luther looked at Ben, really looked, like he was seeing him for the first time. "You really believe that? That this is worth it? Chasing people who just want to be free? They're property. It's the law." "The law." Luther laughed, bitter, broken. "The law let my family die. The law protects men like Ashford and Venski. The law doesn't give a damn about people like us." He turned to Colt. "Where'd they go?" Colt hesitated. This could still be a trick, a way to make him talk, but something in Luther's eyes had changed. Something had broken. Or maybe something had finally healed. "North," Colt said. "Toward Ridgecrest. They're going to try for the train station, get to Los Angeles, find a federal marshal." Luther nodded. "That's smart. Ashford owns the local law, but his reach doesn't extend that far." He picked up the ledger. "I'm coming with you." "What?" "You heard me. I'm done. Done hunting. Done serving. Done letting men like Ashford destroy lives." He looked at his men. "Anyone else?" The 4 riders exchanged glances. Uncertain, one spoke up, older, gray beard. "I'm out. This ain't what I signed up for." Another nodded. "Me too." Ben's face flushed. "You're all cowards. Traitors. Venski will hear about this." Luther's gun came up fast, pressed against Ben's forehead. "No, he won't, because you're going to ride south. You're going to tell Venska that we all died in the shootout, that the girls escaped but you don't know where, and if you say anything different, I'll come find you. And I won't talk first." Ben's eyes went wide, terrified. He nodded, fast, desperate. Luther lowered the gun. "Go." Ben ran for his horse, mounted, rode hard, didn't look back. He'd ride south, tell Venska a lie. And 3 weeks later, when the trial made headlines, he'd disappear into Mexico, never heard from again. Some debts you can only pay by vanishing. Luther turned to Colt. We've got maybe 3 hours before Venska figures out what really happened. We need to move. Why are you helping me? Because 11 years ago, someone should have helped me, and no one did. Luther's jaw set. I can't fix my past, but maybe I can fix someone else's future. They rode north, hard. The sun climbed. The desert stretched endless. Colt's mind raced, trying to piece together the timeline. Evelyn, Abigail, and Iris had maybe an hour head start. On foot they couldn't cover much ground, maybe 3 miles, 4 if they pushed hard. But Ridgecrest was 15 miles from the cabin. They'd never make it on foot before Venska's men caught up, unless they found horses, or help, or luck. Colt wasn't betting on luck. 2 hours in, they spotted dust on the horizon. Riders coming from Ridgecrest. Luther pulled up, counted. 4, moving fast. Venska's men? Maybe. Or maybe the sheriff finally decided to do his job. They waited. The riders approached, resolved into shapes, then faces. Sheriff William Hatch led them, tall, heavy-set, badge gleaming in the sun. 3 deputies behind him. Colt's stomach sank. Hatch pulled up, looked at Colt, at Luther. His face gave nothing away. Colt Brennan, Sheriff. I'm looking for 2 women and a child. Been reports of gunfire south of here. You know anything about that? Colt's hand drifted toward his pistol. Might. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting until I know whose side you're on. Hatch's eyes narrowed. I'm on the law's side. The law according to who? Ashford? Venski? Something flickered in Hatch's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Those are serious accusations. They're also true, and I've got proof. Colt gestured to Luther. He's got the ledger, all of Venska's records, every name, every payment, including ones to you. Hatch went still. The deputies shifted in their saddles. Luther opened the ledger, found a page, read aloud. Sheriff William Hatch, Ridgecrest, California, $200 per month. Payment for protection and information. Total paid, 1883 to 1889, $14,400. The deputies stared at their sheriff. Hatch's face flushed, then went pale. His hand moved to his gun. That's a lie. It's documented, dated, signed by Venska himself. Doesn't matter, you're trespassing. Harboring fugitives, resisting arrest. Hatch's voice grew louder, desperate. I'm taking you in. His gun cleared leather. Colt's came up faster. The shot echoed across the desert. Hatch jerked, looked down. Blood spread across his chest. He swayed, fell from his horse. The deputies froze. Luther's gun covered them. Anyone else want to die for a corrupt sheriff? Silence. One deputy raised his hands. I didn't know, I swear. I didn't know he was dirty. Now you do. You've got a choice. Ride back to town. Pretend you never saw us. Or join him. Luther gestured to Hatch's body. The deputies turned their horses. Rode. Fast. Colt dismounted. Checked Hatch. The sheriff still breathed. Shallow. Wet. Blood bubbled on his lips. Where are they? Colt demanded. Where are the women? Hatch coughed. Blood sprayed. Jail. Ridgecrest. Locked them up 2 hours ago. On whose authority? Venska's. He's coming, tomorrow morning, with Ashford, to collect his property. Hatch's eyes glazed. His breathing stopped. Colt stood, looked at Luther. We've got maybe 12 hours. To do what? Get them out, and end this. Luther smiled, cold, sharp. Now you're talking my language. They rode into Ridgecrest as the sun touched the horizon. The town was small, one main street. Buildings clustered like sheep, a church, a saloon, a general store, and a jail. Stone walls, barred windows, one door, heavy oak, reinforced. 2 guards outside, both armed. Colt and Luther tied their horses behind the church, approached on foot, slow, careful. The guards saw them coming. Hands moved to weapons. "That's far enough," one called. "State your business." "We're here for the prisoners," Colt said. "The women and child." "On whose authority?" "Mine," the guard laughed. "Move along, cowboy, before you get hurt." Luther stepped forward, into the light. The guards recognized him. Their faces changed. "Luther Kane. Didn't expect to see you here. Life's full of surprises." Luther's hand rested on his gun. "Open the door." "Can't do that. Sheriff's orders." "Sheriff's dead." That stopped them. "What?" "Shot him myself about 3 hours ago, so his orders don't mean much anymore. Now open the door, or I'll open it through you." The guards looked at each other, reading, deciding. One reached for his gun. Colt's shot took him in the shoulder. He spun, dropped. The other guard raised his hands. Okay, don't shoot. Smart man, now open it." The guard unlocked the door, pushed it wide. Inside, the jail was dark, cold, smelled like sweat and fear and old stone. 3 cells, 2 empty. In the third, Evelyn, Abigail, and Iris huddled together. Evelyn saw Colt. Relief flooded her face. "You're alive." "So are you. Let's keep it that way." The guard unlocked the cell. The women emerged. Iris clung to her mother. Evelyn moved to Colt's side. "Hatch caught us 2 miles out of town," Abigail said. "We tried to run, but he had deputies. They brought us here, said Vensky was coming tomorrow to collect us." "I know. Hatch told me before he died." "You killed the sheriff?" "Had to. He drew first." Abigail nodded. No judgment, just acceptance. "What's the plan?" "Get you to Los Angeles. Find a federal marshal. Use the ledger to take down Ashford and Venska, both." Luther spoke up. "There's a problem. The train doesn't run again until tomorrow afternoon, and Venska will be here by dawn. So we ride." "On what?" "We've got 2 horses, 5 people." Colt thought. Fast. Desperate. Then Evelyn said, "There's another way." Everyone looked at her. "We don't run, we fight." "Against how many?" Abigail asked. "Venska usually travels with 6 men, maybe 8 if he's worried. We've got surprise. We've got the ledger, and we've got nothing left to lose." Luther grinned. "I like her." Colt shook his head. "It's too dangerous. If we lose, you're all dead or worse. If we run, we're hunted forever. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being scared. I want to fight." Evelyn's voice was steel, unbreakable. Abigail looked at her sister, saw something she recognized. "I'm in." "You have a daughter." "Exactly. I want her to grow up free, not looking over her shoulder, not waiting for men to come drag her away. This ends tomorrow, one way or another." Iris looked up at her mother. "Mama, I'm scared." "Me too, baby, but sometimes being scared is okay, as long as we don't let it stop us." Colt looked at each of them, saw determination, saw courage, saw people who'd been broken and beaten and still chose to stand. "All right, we fight, but we do it smart." They spent the night planning. Luther knew Venska's patterns, how he traveled, how he thought, his weaknesses. He's arrogant, thinks he's untouchable. He'll come in loud, make a show. Want everyone to see what happens when you cross him. "So we use that," Colt said. "Let him come. Let him think he's won. Then we hit him when he's exposed." They gathered weapons, ammunition, positioned themselves. Colt and Luther on rooftops, overlapping fields of fire. Evelyn and Abigail in the jail, armed, waiting. Iris hidden in the church, safe as anywhere could be. Dawn came gray and cold. Riders appeared on the southern road. 8 of them, Venska in front, tall. Gray-haired, dressed in a fine suit despite the dust. Next to him, Judge Cornelius Ashford, older, softer, but his eyes were hard. They rode into town slow, confident, stopped in front of the jail. Venska dismounted, looked around, saw the dead guard, smiled. "Someone's been busy." Ashford stayed mounted. "Where's Hatch?" "Dead." The voice came from the jail doorway. Evelyn stepped out, gun in hand, pointed at Venska. He looked at her. No fear, just mild annoyance. 17. I'm disappointed. I thought you'd be smarter than this. My name is Evelyn. Your name is whatever I say it is. You're mine. Bought and paid for. Now put down the gun before you get hurt. No. Venska sighed, gestured to his men. Kill her. The men drew their guns. Colt and Luther opened fire from above. 2 men dropped. Then 3. The others scattered. Returned fire. Bullets pinged off stone. Abigail emerged from the jail. Shot 1 man in the back. 4 down, 4 left. Venski dove for cover behind a water trough. Ashford wheeled his horse, tried to run. Luther's shot caught the horse. It screamed. Fell. Through Ashford. The judge hit the ground hard. Didn't move. The remaining men realized they were surrounded, outgunned. They raised their hands. We yield. Don't shoot. Luther climbed down from the roof. Colt followed. Venska stood slowly, hands empty, face calm. Clever. I underestimated you. You underestimated all of us, Evelyn said. You thought we'd stay broken, stay scared, stay yours. You are mine. The law says so. The law is about to change. Luther pulled out the ledger, showed it to Venska. The man's face went pale. Where did you get that? Doesn't matter. What matters is what's inside. Every name, every payment, every crime. It's all here. And it's all going to a federal marshal in Los Angeles. Venska's composure cracked. You can't. That ledger is my life's work, my empire, everything. Exactly. And we're going to burn it all down. Venska lunged, fast, desperate. Evelyn's gun came up. The shot echoed. Venska stopped, looked down. Blood spread across his chest. He fell to his knees, looked at Evelyn with something like respect. You've changed. No, I just remembered who I was before you tried to break me. Venska fell forward. Didn't move again. Across the street, Ashford groaned, sat up, saw Venska's body, tried to stand, couldn't. His leg bent wrong, broken in the fall. Colt walked over, stood above him. You're under arrest. For corruption, for slavery, for murder, and for destroying my sister's life. Ashford laughed, wet, pained. You think this changes anything? I have friends, lawyers. I'll be out in a month. Maybe. But you'll stand trial first, and everyone will know what you did, who you are, what you've been hiding behind that robe. The judge's face twisted. You self-righteous fool. You don't know how the world works. Power protects power. Always has, always will. Maybe, but not today. Colt turned away, walked back to where Evelyn and Abigail stood. Iris ran from the church, threw herself into her mother's arms. The townspeople emerged slowly, cautious, watching. Luther addressed them. Your sheriff was corrupt. Judge Ashford was corrupt. They worked with Otto Venski to run a slavery ring. We have proof, evidence, names. If any of you were involved, speak now, because this ends today. Silence. Then one man stepped forward. The blacksmith. I knew. I didn't participate, but I knew. I'm sorry. I should have done something. Others nodded, ashamed, guilty. Now's your chance, Luther said. Help us make this right. Bear witness. Tell the truth. Be better. The blacksmith nodded. What do you need? Horses, supplies, and someone to ride to Los Angeles. Get a federal marshal. Bring him back here with authority. I'll go. I'll bring them back. He mounted, rode hard. The others helped secure Ashford, treated his broken leg, locked him in the jail. Colt sat with Evelyn on the church steps. You did good, he said. I killed a man. You stopped a monster. Is there a difference? Colt was quiet. I don't know. I hope so. Otherwise, we're all damned. Evelyn leaned against his shoulder. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for reminding me why I shouldn't give up on myself. They sat in silence as the sun climbed, as the town began to heal, as hope, fragile and tentative, took root. To be continued in Part 3. Night fell on the Ridgecrest jail. Cold seeped through stone walls. Evelyn sat in the corner of the cell, arms wrapped around her knees. Abigail held Iris close. The child's breathing was soft, even. But Abigail knew her daughter wasn't asleep. Colt occupied the cell across the narrow corridor, too far to speak without the guards hearing. Luther was 2 cells down, out of sight. 2 guards sat at a table near the door, playing cards, passing a bottle back and forth. Their laughter echoed off stone. Abigail pressed her face against Iris's hair, breathed in the smell of her, dust and sweat and something sweet underneath, the scent of childhood. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered, too quiet for the guards. "I'm so sorry." Iris stirred, lifted her head. Her brown eyes were wide in the darkness, alert. "Mama," she breathed, "I'm not scared." "You should be. I am. But you taught me not to be." Abigail's throat closed. She'd tried so hard to protect this child, to shield her from the world's cruelty, and instead she'd dragged her into the center of it. Iris shifted, looked at the guards, watched them drink, watched them laugh, watched one of them stand, wobble, stumble toward the door. "Gotta piss," the guard slurred. He pushed outside. The door swung shut behind him. The remaining guard poured another drink. His head drooped, jerked up, drooped again. Iris watched all of this, silent, calculating. She turned to her mother. "The lock on our door, it's loose." "What?" "When they pushed us in. I heard it. The bolt didn't catch right. It's old, rusted." Abigail looked at the cell door, saw nothing different. "Even if that's true, we can't get past the guard. He's falling asleep. The bottle they're drinking, it's almost empty. And it's strong. I can smell it from here." Evelyn moved closer to the bars. "Iris, what are you thinking?" The child's voice stayed calm, too calm for a 6-year-old. "I'm thinking I'm small enough to squeeze through the gap at the bottom of the door if the bolt's not locked right. Small enough they won't notice me if they're drunk or sleeping." "No," Abigail's grip tightened. "Absolutely not." "Mama, if I don't try, what happens tomorrow when the bad man comes?" Silence answered her. Colt's voice drifted across the corridor, barely audible. "The girl's right. It's our only chance." "She's 6 years old," Abigail hissed. "I know, but she's also the only one of us who can move without making noise, the only one small enough to slip through, and maybe the only one brave enough to try." Iris looked up at her mother. "You told me once that brave people are just scared people who do it anyway. Remember?" Abigail's eyes filled. "I remember." "Then let me be brave." "Like you." Minutes crawled by. The guard's head dropped to his chest. His breathing deepened. The bottle lay empty on its side. Iris moved to the cell door, pressed against it. The old iron groaned, but the lock didn't hold. The gap at the bottom was maybe 8 inches high, barely visible in the darkness. Iris lay flat, pushed her head through first. Her shoulders scraped stone. She wiggled, twisted. Her dress caught on something, tore. She kept moving. Her hips passed through. Then her legs. She was out. Abigail's hand covered her mouth, stopping the sob that wanted to escape. Iris stood on the other side of the bars, so small, so impossibly small. She looked at her mother, put a finger to her lips. Then she moved toward the guard, each step deliberate, careful, silent as breath. She reached the table. The guard snored, his head tilted back, mouth open. The keys hung on a nail beside the door, 3 feet above Iris's reach. She looked around. Saw the chair, wooden, heavy. She dragged it toward the wall, inch by inch. The legs scraped stone. The guard stirred, mumbled, didn't wake. Iris climbed onto the chair, stood on tiptoe. Her fingers found the keys. She lifted them slow, so slow. They clinked together. The guard's eyes opened. He stared at Iris, confused, drunk, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "What the—" Evelyn's voice cut through the darkness, loud, sharp. "Fire! Fire in the back cell!" The guard lurched up, spun toward the cells. "Where?" "There. Can't you see the smoke?" He stumbled forward, squinting, seeing nothing. Iris jumped down, ran to her mother's cell, tried 3 keys. The third one turned. The door swung open. Abigail burst out, grabbed her daughter, held her so tight Iris gasped. "Mama, the others!" Abigail unlocked Evelyn's cell, then Colt's, then Luther's. The guard finally understood. He reached for his gun. Colt was faster. One punch. The guard dropped. They stood in the jail, free, breathing hard. The outside guard would be back any second. Luther moved to the door, cracked it open, saw the second guard leaning against the wall, still urinating, still oblivious. "We go now, fast, quiet." They slipped out, into the darkness, into the narrow alley behind the jail, ran for the church, for the blacksmith stable, for anywhere that wasn't here. Behind them, the guard shouted. Alarm bells rang, but they were already gone. They hid in the church basement, in the dark, in the cold. Hearts pounding. Iris sat in her mother's lap, trembling now, the bravery finally cracking. "I was so scared, Mama." "I know, baby, I know. But I did it anyway." "You did. You saved us all." Colt knelt beside them, looked at Iris, this small child who'd done what 4 adults couldn't. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You're the bravest person I've ever met." Iris managed a small smile. "Papa Colt, does this mean I get to help fight the bad men?" "No, this means you get to be a kid. Let us do the fighting from now on. But I want to help." Abigail kissed her daughter's head. "You already did, more than anyone could ask." They stayed hidden until dawn, planning, waiting, knowing that every minute was borrowed. By the time the sun rose, they'd decided. They wouldn't run. They wouldn't hide. They'd fight. But first, they needed help. Real help. Federal help. The blacksmith agreed to ride for Los Angeles, to bring back a marshal, to make this official. 3 days, he said. Maybe 4. Could they hold out that long? They'd have to. The federal marshal arrived 3 days later. His name was Samuel Clay, 45. Face like carved granite. Eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. He rode into Ridgecrest with 2 deputies and a warrant book thick as a Bible. The town watched from windows and doorways, silent, wary. Clay dismounted in front of the jail, looked around, took in the bullet holes, the dried blood on the street, the burned water trough. "Someone want to tell me what happened here?" Colt stepped forward. "War happened, and we won." Clay studied him. "You Brennan?" "Yeah." "The blacksmith said you've got evidence. A ledger, something big enough to bring down a federal judge." "That's right." "Show me." They gathered in the jail. Colt, Evelyn, Abigail, Luther, Marshal Clay and his deputies. Iris stayed with the blacksmith's wife, eating cookies, playing with a cat, being a child for maybe the first time in her life. Luther laid the ledger on the table, opened it. Clay leaned forward, started reading. His face didn't change, didn't react, just absorbed page after page after page. Finally he spoke. "How'd you get this?" "I stole it," Abigail said. 6 years ago, from Otto Vensky's office in Sacramento. "You admit to theft?" "I admit to stealing from a man who stole my life. If that's a crime, arrest me." Clay looked at her. Something shifted in his eyes. Not quite respect, but recognition maybe. "This ledger, you understand what it means? What it could do?" "It means a lot of powerful people are about to fall," Luther said, starting with Judge Ashford. Cornelius Ashford, federal judge for the Northern District of California, 20 years on the bench, appointed by President Grant himself. Clay closed the ledger. "You're accusing him of running a slavery ring, of corruption, of murder. These are capital charges. They're also true. Truth and proof are different things. A ledger can be faked, numbers altered, names forged." Evelyn stood, turned, pulled down the collar of her shirt, showed the brand on her shoulder. "Can this be faked?" Clay stared at the burned flesh, the scarred V. "No, that's real. There are dozens of others, maybe hundreds, all branded, all documented in that ledger, all willing to testify. Testimony from convicted criminals and debt slaves. A good lawyer will tear them apart. Then what do you need?" Colt's voice came out hard. Frustrated. What more do you want? Clay was quiet a long time. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. I believe you. I believe this ledger is real. I believe Ashford is guilty. But belief doesn't convict. Evidence does. And right now, all I've got is a stolen book and the word of people with every reason to lie. So that's it? He walks? No, he stands trial. But I can't promise he'll be convicted, and I can't promise any of you will be safe after you testify. The words fell like stones. Evelyn sat down heavy. What are you saying? I'm saying powerful men protect each other. Ashford has friends, allies, people who benefit from keeping him free. Even if we convict him, his network remains, and they'll come after you, all of you, to silence you, to send a message. So we should just give up, let him win? I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to understand the cost. Justice isn't free. Sometimes it takes everything. Abigail spoke up. We know the cost. We've been paying it our whole lives. At least this time we get to choose. Clay nodded. All right, then here's what happens. I arrest Ashford, take him to San Francisco for trial. You come with me. Testify. Present the ledger as evidence. If we're lucky, if the jury is honest, he goes to prison for life. And if we're not lucky, he walks, and you've painted targets on your backs for nothing. Luther leaned forward. There's another option. Everyone looked at him. We don't rely on the courts. We handle this ourselves. That's murder, Clay said. That's justice. It's vigilante justice, mob justice, and it always ends the same way. More blood, more bodies, more people thinking the law doesn't matter. The law hasn't mattered for us, Evelyn said quietly. The law said we were property. The law said our contracts were binding. The law protected the men who branded us and sold us and killed us. So forgive me if I don't have much faith in courts and trials. Clay's face softened, just slightly. I understand, I do. But if you kill Ashford, you become what he is, someone who puts themselves above the law, someone who decides who lives and dies based on their own judgment. Is that really better? Silence filled the room. Colt stood, walked to the window, stared out at the street. Marshal Clay is right. If we kill Ashford, we're no better than he is. We become the thing we're fighting against. But if we let him stand trial and he walks, we've accomplished nothing, Luther said. Worse than nothing. We've warned his network. They'll scatter, cover their tracks, destroy evidence. We'll never get another chance. So what do we do? Abigail asked. Colt turned. We split up. What? Marshal Clay takes the ledger and Ashford to San Francisco, starts the legal process. Meanwhile, we go after the network, find the camps, free the people, gather witnesses, build a case so big they can't ignore it. Evelyn shook her head. That's suicide. Venska had operations in 6 states, camps in places we don't even know about. Guards, overseers. It would take months, years. So we start with what we know, the camps closest to here, the ones in California and Nevada. We document everything. Take photographs, collect testimony, make it impossible to deny. Luther smiled. You're talking about a war. No, I'm talking about a crusade. Clay considered. It could work. If you can bring me enough evidence, enough witnesses, enough proof that the system can't ignore it. But it's dangerous. These camps are guarded. The overseers are armed. And once they realize what you're doing, they'll come after you hard. They're already coming after us, Colt said. Might as well make it worth their while. Clay stood, extended his hand. All right, Brennan, you've got 2 months. Bring me evidence, real evidence, names, locations, witnesses willing to testify. And I'll make sure Ashford's trial is the biggest thing San Francisco has seen in a decade. Colt shook his hand. Deal. That night, they made plans. Marshal Clay would leave at dawn. Take Ashford. Take the ledger. Take 2 deputies as guards. Colt, Evelyn, Abigail, and Luther would head east, to the mining camps in Nevada where Venska's operations were strongest. Iris would stay in Ridgecrest with the blacksmith and his wife. Safe, protected. Abigail held her daughter tight that evening, whispered promises, made up songs, tried not to cry. Why can't I come with you, Mama? because where I'm going isn't safe, baby. And I need to know you're here, warm, fed, happy. But what if you don't come back? Abigail's throat closed. She forced words out. Then you remember me. Remember that I loved you more than anything in the world, and you grow up strong and free. You hear me? Iris nodded. Tears streamed down her face. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Always. Across the room, Evelyn and Colt sat in silence. Finally, Evelyn spoke. Are we going to die? Probably. That's not comforting. Wasn't trying to comfort, just being honest. Evelyn almost smiled. I'm scared. Me too. But you're still going? Yeah. Why? Colt looked at her, really looked. Because 8 years ago I couldn't save my sister, and I've been running from that failure ever since. This is my chance to stop running, to do something that matters, even if it kills me. What if I asked you not to go? What if I said, let's take Iris and Abigail and just disappear? Change our names. Start over somewhere far away. Is that what you want? Evelyn was quiet. Then, no, I want to fight. I want to tear down every camp and free every person and make sure no one else gets branded like cattle. I want Ashford to die knowing his empire burned. I want Venska's name to be a curse people spit on. Then that's what we'll do. Even if it kills us? Especially if it kills us, because some things are worth dying for. Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm glad I fell in that well. I'm glad you found me. Me too. They sat like that until the stars came out. Dawn arrived cold and gray. Marshal Clay loaded Ashford into a wagon. The judge's leg was splinted, his hands cuffed. He looked older than before, diminished, but his eyes still held hatred. You think you've won? Ashford said to Colt. You think this changes anything? It doesn't. My lawyers will have me out in 6 months, and then I'll come for you, for all of you. I'll make sure you die slowly, painfully. I'll make sure you watch everyone you love suffer first. Colt walked close, leaned in, spoke quiet enough that only Ashford could hear. You won't live 6 months, even if the trial goes your way, even if you walk free. Someone will get to you, maybe in prison, maybe after. Could be me, could be Luther, could be one of the 1,000 people whose lives you destroyed, but you're dead. You just don't know it yet. Ashford's face paled. Clay climbed onto the wagon seat. Let's move out. The wagon rolled north, disappeared into the morning mist. Colt turned to his group. We head east. First stop is the Silver Creek Mine. Venske had 40 people working there last time Luther checked. We free them. Document everything. Move on to the next. What if the guards fight? Abigail asked. Then we fight back. But we don't kill unless we have to. We're not murderers. We're liberators. Luther snorted. Liberators. I like it. Makes us sound noble. We're not noble. We're just doing what's right. They rode out. 4 people on 4 horses, carrying weapons and hope, and a determination that bordered on madness. The desert stretched before them, empty, hostile, beautiful in its indifference. 3 days of hard riding brought them to Silver Creek. The mine sat in a valley between red stone hills, a cluster of buildings, a shaft going deep into the earth, smoke rising from cook fires, and people, dozens of them, thin, ragged, moving like ghosts through the camp. Guards walked the perimeter, 6 that Colt could see, armed with rifles, alert. We can't just ride in, Luther said. They'll see us coming. Raise the alarm. So we wait until dark, go in quiet, disable the guards, free the workers. And if someone raises the alarm anyway, then we adapt. They camped a mile out, waited for sunset. Evelyn cleaned her pistol, checked the cylinder, reloaded. Abigail sharpened her knife, the same one she'd used to kill her owner 6 years ago. Luther loaded his rifle, checked the sight, smiled like a man going to church. Colt just sat, thinking, planning, praying to a God he wasn't sure existed. Night fell like a curtain. They moved in, slow, silent. 4 shadows in the darkness. The first guard never saw them coming. Luther's arm wrapped around his throat, squeezed. The man struggled, went limp. Luther lowered him gentle, tied him up, gagged him. One down. The second guard turned a corner, saw Colt, opened his mouth to shout. Evelyn's gun butt caught him in the temple. He dropped. Two down. The third and fourth guards stood together near the main building, talking, smoking, laughing about something. Colt and Luther approached from behind, simultaneous, silent. Two quick strikes, two bodies falling, four down. The fifth guard was smart. He'd heard something. Moved to investigate, rifle ready. He saw Colt, raised his weapon. Abigail's knife flew, caught him in the shoulder. He screamed, dropped the rifle. Alarm bells rang. The camp exploded into motion. Guards poured from buildings. Workers scattered. Chaos erupted. So much for quiet, Luther muttered. The sixth guard appeared on a rooftop, rifle aimed at Evelyn. Colt's shot took him in the chest. He fell backward, disappeared. More guards came. 8, 10, too many. But then the workers fought back. A man picked up a shovel, swung it into a guard's face. A woman grabbed a rifle from a fallen guard, fired, missed, fired again, didn't miss. Others joined. Tools became weapons. Fear became fury. The guards broke, ran. Those who couldn't run surrendered. In 15 minutes it was over. 40 workers stood free. Colt addressed them. You're not prisoners anymore. You're free. We have food, water, horses. We'll take you to the nearest town, help you start over. An older man stepped forward, scarred, worn. Who are you? Someone who knows what it's like to lose everything, and someone who wants to make sure no one else does. The man studied Colt's face, then nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long road ahead. They spent 2 days at Silver Creek, documenting everything, taking photographs with a camera Luther had acquired, recording names, stories, testimonies. Every person had been branded. Every person had a debt they couldn't repay. Every person had lost years of their life to Venska's system. It was systematic, methodical, evil disguised as business. On the third day they moved out, took the 40 freed workers to the nearest town, Carson City, found them shelter, food, work. Some chose to stay, start new lives. Others chose to join Colt's crusade, to help free the others still trapped. By the end of the first month, they'd hit 6 camps, freed over 200 people, gathered testimony from each one. By the end of the second month, they'd freed 500, and the network was starting to notice. Bounty hunters came after them, hired guns, men loyal to Venska's lieutenants who'd inherited the operation. There were fights, close calls, injuries. Luther took a bullet in the leg, kept riding. Abigail got caught in an explosion at a powder magazine. Burns on her arms, kept fighting. Evelyn's horse was shot out from under her. She rolled, came up firing, didn't stop. Colt lost count of how many times he nearly died, but they kept going, because stopping meant failure, and failure meant everyone they'd freed would be recaptured or killed. Finally, with 3 days left before their deadline, they returned to San Francisco, brought with them 500 freed workers. Boxes of evidence, photographs, testimonies, documents, an army of witnesses ready to tell their stories. Marshal Clay met them at the courthouse steps. He looked at the crowd behind Colt, at the wagons full of evidence, at the 4 riders who'd accomplished the impossible. You did it. We did what we had to. Ashford's trial starts tomorrow. Front page of every newspaper in the state. The judge hearing the case is honest. I made sure of it. With this evidence, with these witnesses, we can't lose. Don't jinx it, Clay smiled. Come on, I'll buy you dinner. You look like you could use a hot meal and a soft bed. That night, Colt barely slept. He kept thinking about tomorrow, about testimony, about justice, about whether it would be enough. The trial of Judge Cornelius Ashford lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution presented the ledger, 500 witnesses, photographs of the camps, brands burned into human flesh. The defense argued the ledger was forged. The witnesses were criminals. The photographs were staged. But the evidence was overwhelming. undeniable, damning. On day 21, the jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood. The foreman read the verdicts, one by one, each count. Conspiracy to commit slavery, guilty. Corruption of public office, guilty. Accessory to murder, guilty. 17 counts, 17 guilty verdicts, no exceptions. The judge sentenced Ashford to life in prison, no possibility of parole. Ashford stood as they led him away, looked at Colt, at Evelyn, at everyone who'd testified against him. "You think this ends it?" His voice shook. "This changes nothing. There are others, dozens of others, hundreds. You've barely scratched the surface." "Then we'll keep scratching," Evelyn said, "until there's nothing left." Ashford was taken away, disappeared into the prison system, into a cell where he'd spend the rest of his life. Justice, not perfect, but real. Outside the courthouse, the freed workers celebrated, cried, hugged each other, felt the weight of chains they'd carried for years finally fall away. Marshal Clay approached Colt. "What now? You going to keep doing this? Keep freeing people?" "As long as there are people who need freeing, that could take a lifetime." "Then I guess I know how I'm spending my life." Clay nodded, shook Colt's hand. "If you ever need help, you know where to find me." "I'll remember that." The crowd dispersed slowly, people heading to new lives, new beginnings. Colt stood on the courthouse steps, Evelyn beside him, Abigail and Luther nearby. "What do we do now?" Evelyn asked. "We go home." "Where's home?" Colt thought about that. "I don't know, but I think we'll know it when we find it." They rode south, back to Ridgecrest, back to the small town that had been the beginning of everything. Iris ran out to meet them when they arrived, threw herself into Abigail's arms, cried and laughed and wouldn't let go. The blacksmith and his wife had cared for her well. She'd grown, filled out, smiled more. "I knew you'd come back, Mama. I knew it." "I promised, didn't I?" "You did. You kept your promise." That night they gathered in the church, the whole town, everyone who'd witnessed what happened, everyone who'd been part of it. The new sheriff, a young man named Thomas, who'd been a deputy under Hatch but was honest, stood at the front. "2 months ago, this town was part of something evil. We looked away, stayed silent, let terrible things happen because we were scared or complicit or just didn't care." He paused, let the words sink in. "But 4 people showed us another way. They showed us that silence is acceptance, that evil thrives when good people do nothing. They showed us how to fight." He gestured to Colt, Evelyn, Abigail, and Luther. "Because of them, 500 people are free. Because of them, Judge Ashford is in prison. Because of them, we have a chance to be better." Applause filled the church, slow at first, then building, thunderous. Colt stood, uncomfortable with the attention. "We didn't do this for glory. We did it because it was right, and because no one else would. But the work isn't finished. There are still camps out there, still people suffering, still systems that need to be torn down. So what do? Someone called out. "We keep fighting, not with guns necessarily, but with truth, with testimony, with refusing to look away when we see injustice. We become witnesses. We become voices for those who can't speak. We become the change we want to see." More applause. That night, after everyone had gone home, Colt sat alone outside the church. Evelyn found him there, sat beside him. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About Della. About how she'd feel about all this. About whether she'd be proud or disappointed or angry that it took me 8 years to do something." "She'd be proud. I know she would." "How do you know?" "Because I knew her, and because she loved you, and because what you did, what we did, it mattered. It saved lives. It brought justice. That's something to be proud of." Colt nodded, didn't trust himself to speak. They sat in comfortable silence. Finally, Evelyn said, "I've been thinking about what comes next. And? I want to stay here, in Ridgecrest, help rebuild, turn this place into something better, a town where people who've been hurt can come and heal, where they can be safe." "That's a good dream. Will you help me?" Colt looked at her, saw strength in her eyes, saw hope, Saw a future he hadn't let himself imagine. "Yeah, I'll help." Evelyn smiled, took his hand. 6 months passed. The town transformed. Abigail and Evelyn opened a boarding house, not fancy, not large, but safe. They took in women who'd been freed from the camps, gave them rooms, food, time to heal. Luther stayed too, became a deputy under Sheriff Thomas, used his knowledge of the criminal networks to track down the remaining operations. Colt bought a small piece of land on the edge of town, built a house, nothing elaborate. Just 4 walls and a roof and a porch where he could watch the sunset. He still worked as a cowboy, still drove cattle, still did the hard physical labor that kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. But he had purpose now, direction. One evening, as he sat on his porch, Evelyn joined him. "I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "I remembered my real name, not 17, not Evelyn, my actual name from before." "What is it?" "Grace. My mother called me Grace." Colt smiled. "That's a good name." "I think so too. I'm going to use it from now on. Grace Farrow. A new name for a new life." "I like it." Grace sat beside him, leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up, for fighting when it would have been easier to walk away, for showing me that even after everything, there's still hope." "You showed me the same thing." They sat like that as the sun dropped below the horizon, as the stars emerged, as the desert night settled around them. A year passed. The boarding house expanded. More women arrived, more children. The town grew to accommodate them. Luther married the blacksmith's daughter, had a child on the way. Abigail ran the boarding house with quiet efficiency. Iris thrived, went to school, made friends, laughed freely. Colt and Grace, they took things slow, no rush, no pressure, just days turning into weeks, turning into months of steady companionship. One day Grace asked, "Do you ever think about getting married?" "Sometimes. Why?" "Because I do. And I want to marry you, if you'll have me." Colt turned, looked at her, saw everything he'd ever wanted and never thought he'd deserve. "Yes, I'll have you." They married in the spring. Small ceremony, just friends, just people who mattered. No fancy dress, no elaborate decorations. Just 2 people promising to stand together, to fight together, to build a life worth living. Marshall Clay came from San Francisco, brought news. The federal government is investigating the entire debt slavery system. Congress is holding hearings. They're talking about new laws, protections. Thanks to your testimony, thanks to the evidence you gathered, they're actually doing something. "Will it be enough?" Colt asked. "Probably not. There will always be people who find ways around the law. But it's a start, and starts matter." More time passed. 2 years after the trial, the last of Venska's camps was shut down. The last of his lieutenants arrested. The network that had seemed untouchable was broken, not destroyed. Evil like that never fully dies, but damaged, reduced, made to hide in shadows instead of operating in daylight. 3 years after the trial, Grace gave birth to a daughter. They named her Della. Colt held his daughter for the first time and felt something break open in his chest. All the grief, all the guilt, all the years of running, it poured out. And in its place came something else, peace. Not happiness exactly. The scars ran too deep for that, but peace. Acceptance. The knowledge that he'd done what he could, that he'd honored his sister's memory by making sure other sisters didn't suffer the same fate. 5 years after the trial, Luther tracked down Hank Farrow, Grace and Abigail's father, the man who'd sold them. He was living in a flophouse in Tucson, drunk, broke, dying slowly from liver disease. Luther sent word, asked if the sisters wanted to see him. They talked about it, debated, argued. Finally, Grace said, "No, he's already dead to me. Seeing him won't change that, won't give me closure. It will just remind me of everything he took." Abigail agreed. "Let him die alone, like he made us feel." So they didn't go, didn't forgive, didn't offer reconciliation. Some wounds don't heal, some debts can't be repaid, and that's okay. 6 years after the trial, on a warm summer evening, Colt sat on his porch. Della, his daughter, played in the yard. 5 years old, wild-haired, fearless. Grace sat beside him, her hand in his. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The fighting? The danger? The years we spent hunting camps instead of building a life?" Colt thought about that, really thought. No, because those years gave us this peace, this safety, this chance to raise a daughter who'll never know what it's like to be owned. That's a good answer. It's the true answer. Little Della ran up to the porch. "Papa, tell me a story." "What kind of story?" "A brave story, about heroes." Colt smiled, picked up his daughter, settled her on his lap. "All right. Once upon a time there was a girl who fell into a well. Was she scared? Very scared. But she was also brave. And when a cowboy found her, she didn't give up. She fought. And eventually, she won. What did she win? Her freedom, her life, her future. That's a good story, Papa." "Yes, it is, sweetie. Yes, it is." The sun set. The stars came out. The desert night wrapped around them like a blanket. And Colt Brennan, once a man who ran from everything, sat still, content, home. The dust had settled, and what remained was worth everything it had cost. Years later, when people told the story of what happened in Ridgecrest in the summer of 1889, they got some details wrong. They said Colt Brennan was a legendary gunfighter. He wasn't. He was just a cowboy who'd lost his sister and found a cause. They said Grace Farrow, the girl once called 17, became a saint. She didn't. She remained scarred, haunted, but functional, fighting her demons every day and winning more often than she lost. They said the town became a utopia. It didn't. It remained flawed, imperfect, but better than it was, and that was enough. The truth, as always, was simpler and more complicated than the legend. 5 people fought against a system that seemed unbeatable. They won some battles, lost others, saved hundreds, couldn't save thousands more. But they tried, and in the trying, they proved something important, that one person can make a difference, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, that evil doesn't win unless good people choose silence, that brands can mark skin but not souls, that freedom isn't given, it's taken, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win. Not perfectly, not cleanly, not without cost, but they win, and that has to be enough. On a marker stone in the Ridgecrest Cemetery, beneath the names of those who died in the fight against Venska's network, someone carved a simple epitaph. They were broken. They were branded. They were told they were nothing. They proved everyone wrong. Colt Brennan died at 72, peacefully, in his sleep, surrounded by children and grandchildren. Grace lived to 80, ran the boarding house until the end, helped thousands of women find safety and strength. Abigail died at 68, cancer, but she died free, and her daughter Iris carried on her work. Luther made it to 75, still chasing bad guys until a heart attack took him while he was cleaning his gun. They're all buried in Ridgecrest, in the small cemetery on the hill, where the desert wind whispers through the Joshua trees and the stars shine clear and bright. Their graves don't say much, just names, dates, simple words. But the people of Ridgecrest remember, and they tell the stories, and they teach their children about the cowboy who stopped running, about the girl who survived the well, about the mother who fought for her daughter, about the bounty hunter who switched sides, about the day ordinary people decided enough was enough, and how that decision changed everything. The boarding house still stands, still takes in people who need help, still offers safety to those running from darkness. The church still gathers every Sunday, still prays for justice, still works to make the world better. The desert still stretches endless, still harsh, still beautiful in its indifference. But now when people cross that desert, when they're lost or scared or desperate, they remember the story. They remember that someone survived the well, that someone fought back, that someone won. And they keep going, because if Colt and Grace and Abigail and Luther could do it, broken and scarred and outnumbered, then maybe they can too. Maybe we all can. The dust never truly settles in the desert, but some people learn to carry it, not as a burden, but as proof they survived the storm. And that's enough. That has to be enough. Because it's all we've got. And sometimes all we've got is exactly what we need. The end. In memory of all those who fought against slavery in its many forms, who refused to look away, who chose courage over comfort, who proved that ordinary people can change the world. Their stories matter. Their sacrifices matter. They matter. And so do you. Never forget that. Never stop fighting. Never give up hope. Because somewhere someone is falling into a well, and they need you to pull them out.